Γαλλίας, όπου θα παρακολουθήσουμε μέσα στις επόμενες ημέρες τα τεκτενόμενα στο Ευρωπαϊκό Πρωτάθλημα ΦΙΝ, το Ευρωπαϊκό Ιστιοπλοϊκό Πρωτάθλημα που έχει έρθει στην πατρίδα μας, ένας πολύ σημαντικός αγώνας, ο οποίος βέβαια θα απασχολήσει την ελληνική ιστιοπλοϊκή και όχι μόνο. Είμαστε εδώ εγκατεστημένοι στην Μαρίνα της Καλιθέας. Στη θάλασσα υπάρχει δράση. Στη θάλασσα θα μπορούμε να δούμε σε πολύ λίγα λεπτά την διεξαγωγή της πρώτης ισιοδρομίας του αυτού πρωταθλήματος Open, το οποίο ανοίγει πανιά για να μπουν.
Okay, welcome to the Finn European Championships here in Athens. Tuesday the 14th of May, it is the second day of racing. Unfortunately, the first day was plagued with tricky conditions and a non-stop battle between the land breeze and the sea breeze. And unfortunately, that put paid to racing yesterday. But the boats, as you will see from the tracker on the screen, and we'll have live pictures out on the water, will show all of those 84 world-class sailors that are going to do battle here on these Olympic nostalgic waters of Athens. So not only is it the European Championship, which is on its own right, of course, a prestigious title to hold, and many of the great sailors that have held it before are here again, but there is 4 Olympic qualification spots for countries that are going to happen out on that water as well. So it's not just a matter of claiming that championship, it is all about qualifying if you have not got one of those 4 spaces yet. 8 spaces were qualified and selected in Aarhus last year at the World Championships. 1 extra space was already automatically given to the host nation, Japan. And so those 4 other spaces, there are a lot of other countries vying for them, and some you'll be very surprised at. Some of the names that you'll hear and pick up on that are still battling it out. Just some examples is Khaled Payne from USA, still looking to Jorg Zarif of Brazil, and even after a superb win at the Hempel World Cup Series in Geneva only a couple of weeks ago, is looking to command that position. We also have Australia's Jake Lilly looking to try and secure a position. Finland's Oskarian Munihan. There's a lot of big names all battling out, and as well, another big surprise, Jonathan Laubert of France. So lots of battle hand side now. Advantage sitting out towards that left pack. A little bit of a darker section over towards that side as well. We're starting to give options for that. We've got all the big names spread very clearly across the race course. So we have world champion, one to keep an eye on, Jomba Berkeres. He is tucked up over towards mid to left-hand side alongside Luke Miller, Nicholas Heiner. And they're trying to drive out towards that left-hand side. So we can see this long port tack coming in. And already the fleet's starting to separate. A few boats just dropping back from these ones that got off that line early. So a clear start, as we've heard from the race committee, and no flags highlighting any of OCS boats going on. We stay with the drone up on this right-hand side. But of course, you know, the boats are spread eagerly over towards both sides of the course. Quite tricky conditions. Debris flicking around a little bit either side. If you were to name now, everyone's starting to work back towards that mid-section of the course. You can see the landmass just towards the left-hand side. So to give you a bit of an idea and the topography of that area, land is surrounding this sort of race course here. A lot of the land phased up on that left-hand side with the direction of the breeze that we've got. So a lot of the sailors will be trying to keep towards that left a little bit, looking for slight bit of a kick back off that shore, any disturbance and any changes in that. But again, where that race course is set out, so now you can see the boats all lined up. So you can see there's quite a lot of sea weight going on, a lot of movement on that water. You can clearly see there's a lot of movement on the camera as well. So that's just trying to hold that focus in. We're still on this right-hand side of the race course with these boats that came away from that committee boat. Those patches of gust, quite identifiable with those darker sections. Again, just picking up on just over here, Oskari Muhanen. He's just up right of picture there. You can see that Finnish flag on his sail. In quite a nice position there, just edge of that breeze pattern there. Darker patch, just trying to drive back in. Some of these boats now starting to come back towards that centre of the course. That's where we're going to start to see these changes. We're about just coming up to that first third of the beat. So this is where your strategy will have all laid out. Where do you want to be? Which side of the race course do you want to be going? And I say a lot of the lead boats, the arrowhead of the fleet, coming from that mid-left side. We've got quite a lot of boats really tucking out towards that hard left-hand side, looking for that shore side to see if that's going to pick up on anything. But it is the lead boats mid of left side. One of those boats, Josip Olwich, the Croatian. He was 6th in the World Cup Series, the Hempel World Cup Series final in Marseille last year. Had not a too bad sort of World Series setup at Aarhus, finishing 11th. He was certainly looking to be slightly higher up, and again that 11th spot just narrowly missing out on qualifying his country. So he is one of those people looking to go out and certainly cement his qualification. As we track round, that's him front of picture now. So you can see there's plenty of breeze. The sailors working solidly throughout this. Again, so we have the Oscar flag up, allowing them to be able to work the boat. So remember, within the Finn class, different from certain other classes, you are allowed to pump continuously downwind, put as much effort in as possible. Upwind, that goes back to the standard rules, what you're allowed to do, what is qualified in Rule 42. So you'll see them just working hard, but there certainly won't be the overly enthusiasm that you'll see on that downwind leg. That's where the real strength, grit, balance, coordination all come into play. But so far, it certainly doesn't, when we look out on that water, certainly doesn't look like Athens with the greyness around. Could be anywhere, certainly, that we've seen tucked up on these race courses, but some great to have the breeze and to see these boats all leaning out. According to our tracker, it is the boat that we have been talking about, Josip Olwich from Croatia. That's just holding a little bit of battle forward on the front. of the fleet, sitting tucked in about mid-left of that centre line of the racecourse. So other boats sat tucked alongside him. Anders Pedersen, he is looking to try and get himself this qualification gap as well. He's just up on the right of his hip. And so a lot of the big names are all battling it out in the mid-section of the fleet there. And that is the Finnish man just on the left-hand side there. One we've been talking about, Oskari Munhonen. So this is where it's all going to come down. This is where they're all trying to settle in, secure their position coming up to the first mark. Got a long way to go yet. We're not even at that halfway mark of this first leg. This is where the strategy comes into plan. Are they happy with their strategy? Did they pick up and have that clear identification of what the wind's doing? With the names that are already out on that water as well. Again, centre of picture, we see the Kiwi sailor, sail number 24, Josh Jr. He's certainly been on form. There's been a fierce battle between the two Kiwi boats that are at present, Andy Maloney and Josh Jr. And coming in from Parma, the Princess Sophia Trophy, they had a real good battle, lighter breeze, and so certainly what was kind of expected in Athens. And so a lot of people keeping an eye on those two. They found some very good forms, slotting in some solid race wins and claiming a bulk of those throughout Parma. But Josh Jr., he's had some real rises in form. He finished up fourth in Aarhus and was second at the Hempel World Cup Series final Marseille last year. Seventh in Rio, so that was where he was certainly looking to try and improve on that, but a fierce battle between those two sailors, and so we can see the boats now, lots of the boats all starting to push back into this mid part of the course. No one's broached out to far towards the sides. A lot of them all just taking these tactical decisions, staying in that midsection, and this is what makes this boat such a phenomenal boat. Not only the fitness and skill required, the tactical nous and where you're going to position yourself, constantly thinking how you're going alongside people. It's not just that speed race, the tactics, the strategy that's applied is huge. Huge amount of focus goes on learning and testing kits, but of course it all comes down to how you use that equipment and setting yourself up. One of those people that knows the boat well, but has had a little bit of a break away from it is the Olympic champion, which of course is Giles Scott. He's had a little bit of a break away after Rio, after winning the gold in Rio. He was 4 times world champion running up to that event, but has spent a lot of time dedicating his time into the America's Cup as part of the Ineos GBR team. And so putting quite a bit of time into that. He's started stepping back into the boat this year, but this is his first major championship back on the water. He attended Parma, where he finished up second, just in between those on-fire Kiwi boats that we talked about, Josh Jr. and Andy Maloney. And he also went to the Australian Champs, where he won that. So still someone to keep an eye on, but we'll see whether he has returned to form or whether the break is going to be a battle for him. So we can see on that left-hand side, if you haven't already identified, that leaderboard flicking around. Ed Wright, he is your current European champion. Certainly one to watch. He's been on good form. Plenty of depth and background behind him as well. So, again, we see him straight up there, nice and early, battling it out. Other names, Andy Maloney, we've talked about, jumping up and down. Luke Muller from the US. at this top mark. And no surprise, some of the names that are up there already. Just scanning across, using the tracker to identify the mass number of boats as they close in on this race course. Very, very busy as they come up. So obviously pretty tricky for our camera crew out on the water. They're doing everything possible to try and stabilize the camera. So sorry for any motion sickness going on for anyone. But there we go. Just behind that leaderboard, we've identified the top mark. So we can start to really see where these lead boats are approaching this mark. All trying to come back in on that port tack, that final tack just up there. So as they make their way up to this top mark, focus will already be on which side of the race course was favoured. Was there a side? Was there that midsection? And again, we have seen that Oscar flag up at that start line over the 10-knot breeze limit, which is required for pumping. There as we lock in. Camera zooms in on the Norwegian. That is Anders Pedersen. Again, another person looking to stamp his qualification, get himself secured. 17th in Rio. He was 13th in Aarhus last year at the World Championships. But he will be really keenly looking to get that qualification spot, take the pressure off, and then just completely focus and dictate all his training towards the games in Tokyo. Many of the sailors, this will be their last regatta before heading out towards Tokyo or out to Enoshima and starting to put the training in. See that Brazilian flag of Jorg Zarif approaching just behind Anders Pedersen there as they all start squeezing in again. Olazar from Argentina again, the flag just approaching in, just tucked down over on that right-hand side. So they're all there, but there's a tack coming in onto that starboard ley line. Is it going to be enough to lead the fleet round at the top mark? So we can see it is Norway. Anders Pedersen, he leads at the top mark, closely followed by the Croatian Josip Ulrich, and tucked in there as well, just in between them, Giles Scott, GBR 41. So we're keeping track of him. Again, a good dominant performance from the Croatians, Russian boat, and the British. That is, as going round number 11, that is Ed Wright, the European champion. So again, it is up there. USA 91, Luke Muller. So he is the one, again, looking to try and get himself qualified, but is the first of those American boats round. And then a real bundle. We've got a mighty battle between the Kiwis and the Dutch, both Kiwi boats. There, Lobair going round as well. So we can see them just take that little spreader mark before they force their way back downwind. Jorg Zarif tucked back a little bit more. Thought he would have been slightly higher up in the pack there, but obviously got sucked back into it a little bit. But it's really trying to just squeeze around this top mark at the moment. And there is your world champion, Hungarian 40. That is your world champion, just squeezing round at the moment. So a lot of work to do for John Burkes. He was first in Aarhus, 12th in Rio. Certainly looking to put stretch a bit back on again. Caleb Payne now. He's quite deep in this fleet again. A lot of work to be done to pull himself through. So some big names back in the fleet. But again, we saw a lot of the people we expected at the front of the fleet. Look at that for a shot. So they work their way downwind, trying to identify their clear path, identify that clear lane. A few boats taking that jibe off early. You can see Anders Pedersen. He led at that top mark. A nice, solid first beat from him. Exactly where he wants to be, putting that pressure on. We have Ed Wright, European champion. We had Giles Scott all tucked up in there. Again, just for anyone watching, looks like Giles Scott, the reason why we were struggling to keep an eye on him is his tracker doesn't seem to be 100% registering where he is, and so I can confirm he is in those lead few boats. We saw him go round GBR 41 in second place, so he is there. So any fans of Giles Scott, don't despair. That's why we were struggling to identify where he was on that race course, but he is up there and is in one of those lead boats. We'll bring updates on that as it goes. But what a battle is going on this race course, as we identified 4 places for qualification for Tokyo 2020. 8 nations already qualified. Japan, of course, as the host nation, already being given their qualification spot. Here we are, the lead couple of boats out in front. Just trying to identify a clear enough image of those boats, so we can see it is the Argentinian sailor Facundo Alazar, sailing nicely tucked down on towards this side of the race course, just holding it slightly further out towards that right. Now the jibe comes in. That is one of the Kiwi boats, struggling just to identify the exact number on that, so apologies for that. As the drone tracks forward, you can see the gap that we've got to bridge to those lead boats. It's already starting to open up into a comfortable battle between these lead boats. And that on the right-hand side, looking at that flag, is the Croatian Josip Olwich, who we saw fairly early on, just jibing off towards the left-hand side. That looked like one of the British boats, whether it was Ed Wright or Giles Scott. Just lost image there, so we'll go on to the tracker just to give us. Try and get a bit more communication from the race committee just to define that, but it certainly looked like that penalty. That is the boat that we're looking at, and it is Norwegian number 1, which is Anders Pedersen. So for all the fans out there of the Norwegian, he has been dragged back a little bit into that leading pack, so it's not the lead that he wished for. But it shows that the umpires are going to be fierce. They're going to be on the ball. They'll be fair, of course. They've got to tread the line. They've got to stick to the rules. But they're certainly not shy of waving the flag when they feel a penalty should be applied. And first one up is the Norwegian. That now pushes A little bit of favouritism again into Ulwich. We saw was out in the front. The two British boats, Ed Wright, Giles Scott, they were both well up in front as well. So we had, I believe, just trying to identify through the tracker, Russian firmly mixed in between, battling it out with them. So plenty of racing to go. And that breeze slowly dropping. You can see those darker patches there. That's exactly what they're trying to identify. Identify where that breeze is. Here it is, the Olympic champion Giles Scott closest to camera. So again, just trying to pick his way down through this race course. So we have a boat just over towards his right-hand side, which I believe is the Croatian, just slightly out of shot. The Russian tucked in behind him. He'll be feeling the squeeze a little bit with, of course, alongside him will be Ed Wright, the European champion as well. He is tucked in somewhere amongst that bundle of boats. We're about halfway down this first downwind leg. We can already see plenty of place changes. Nicholas Heine, one of the Dutch sailors, just squeezing past Ed Wright at the moment as well, and Petter Jan Posma just back from him as well. So the battle between the Dutch fiercely on as well. Luke Muller, the American, in a nice position as well. Also tucked just inside Alachan Kanar, who's out towards the right-hand side as we look at that picture, or did look at that picture, as we pan back over towards this fleet. So we're the camera boat tracking down on the right-hand side of the course as we look back towards that midsection of the fleet. You can see there's a fair amount of short, sharp chop. Access to some of those waves, if you're able to pick up on them, will be give good benefit. Giles Scott going for a jibe there, now onto starboard, now starting to get that main out, starting to run by the lee and get that boat going again. Clearly looking way out the back of the boat there, trying to identify where that next bit of pressure is going to come. Which side of the racecourse is it going to run down? Who's going to get the benefit of that? We saw a very tightly packed midsection of the racecourse on that first upwind leg. Because of that upwind leg with no side definitive, they're clearly doing exactly that downwind, but you can definitely see. So we've got the 10 knots rolling across the bottom, but it's clearly that breeze has filtered away. A lot of that breeze now just trying to stay in that sail, trying to cling any pressure possible. Those odd jibes coming in just to keep that boat moving, keep that pressure going. Of course, you're not able to go back-to-back jibes due to Rule 42. Rule 42 being the propulsion rule, but there's certainly just chucking the odd one or two in just to enable them to keep everything driving. But you can see how light that breeze really starting to filter out. And this is some of the conditions that they all thought they were going to face. These light, tricky conditions. A lot of movement here. Ulwich just tucked in. There we see sail number one, the Croatian, just driving that boat down again, all tucking into quite a tuck position. Just back from him, we can see the Brazilian sign, Jorg Zarif. So many names that are huge within the world of sailing. You know, they all jump from different boats, from America's Cups, Olympic campaigns. That many of them have done multiple campaigns. World champions, European champions, they're all out there, and they're all battling for it. So at the last European Championships that were held in Cadiz in Spain, Ed Wright, the British sailor, was crowned European champion, just snatching it from Nicholas Heine, the Dutchman, and Max Selman, the Swedish sailor, took bronze. So those were the most up-to-date European champs. Then the year before in Marseille, it was quite a spectacular win for the home countryman Jonathan Laubert. He took the European Championship, nipping at Ed Wright, who would have been second European Championship, who finished second, and Ben Cornish, another British sailor who has retired from fin sailing and is been fully dedicated to the Ineos America's Cup team, Ben Ainsley's team. And likewise with Giles Scott was his training partner among that, but Ben has decided to step clear and allow the battle to commence between Ed Wright and Giles Scott for that position coming into the games. Great images. You can see how slack that main sheet is, trying to get any sort of breeze, that windward heel, trying to lift up that boom, give that boat that little bit of drive downwind. Just behind them, we can see the boats all starting to close in. Just out of shot here, that is Giles Scott. It looks like he has got the lead here. Which was just back from him. Good punt going into a jibe then. Just trying to pick his wave, where to go. Nice and smooth and nice and controlled. So again, now this breeze going light. It's all about balancing that control, balancing the smoothness, not shaking that rig any more than it needs to. But look how tightly packed these boats are here. Ulwich creeping down on this left-hand side. Scott in the middle of the picture. We're just coming down towards this bottom gate. It is a windward-leeward course with that little spreader gate, so we can see Giles Scott just holding the lead from Ulwich. Then Kistianov from Russia in third is just positioned just on their hip, ready to make any jump or mistake that comes in. And like they all will. Anyone that makes that mistake, they will jump at. Again, just back from them. Again, we have Olizar from Argentina, Josh Jr., Alichan Kena, Jan Postma, all coming through as they close the gap. Giles Scott trying to define where he wants to be, which gate mark he's positioning, keeping an eye over that shoulder. Ulwich just up on his hip. Kistanov likewise. Now an extra little bit of a sheet. There we start to see this gate mark now. Coming to this near side mark, wanting to hold towards this left-hand side. A little bit of a bias on this side. So Scott leads. Leg 3. British Olympic champ leads the Croatian. The Russian in third. And again, here we go. Fellow teammate of Ulwich as he comes down, rounding in fourth. That is fellow Croatian Bugarin. Round the Argentinian Olizar. Tucked in by the one person we thought we'd see up there, Fabian Pick. Now look how tightly packed. There are the two Kiwi sailors, Josh Jr. and Andy Maloney, battling it out. They had a great regatta in Parma. And again, in these lighter breezes, they're back in. Bias on this side, so a big commitment towards the other side. You've got to be going over there only if you need to really be clearing your air. We saw Burquez take that tack straight out, came round, took the favoured end, and then shot out towards that side. Now we see the Japanese boat come round. One of two Japanese boats, Nishio, just coming round. Again, they have got their qualification space clear, but which of those two Japanese sailors, Nishio or Kokumai, they will be the ones that will be battling it out for their spot. But look how busy this comes into this gate mark now. Everyone trying to pick a lane, trying to identify the who's got right, who's guaranteed room. Lead boats just starting to tack across now, but favouring that mid to left-hand side like we saw on that first leg. So this is a great opportunity. If you're a fan of the Finn class, I'm sure you are already tapped in on their social media sites. Of course, all of the favourites. Facebook, if you want to find out, it's the International Finn class. Instagram is just Finn class. And the argument going on to keep this boat, and just I'm sure if you asked any of the 84 sailors that are there and the names that have come through the class, you can see and understand why. Not only that, but of course before the event we saw the sailors all jumping in on doing a clean-up of the area on water where the race course is going to be, and just again a prominent thing that we're talking about a lot within sailing, well, a lot generally across all news channels, is the state of our planet and what is in the water, the plastic. And great to see a lot of the sailors getting involved, going for a clean-up. But here in shot, one of five Greek boats with a lot on their shoulders. They are looking to get themselves qualified, and of course, you know, what a nation to have supporting them here on home waters. It's not only the whole country behind them, but it is great to see Athens really starting to pull together and bring back what an amazing venue this is. A lot of big classes and events all starting to be scheduled and booked in Athens. So nice to see a lot of people returning to what is this iconic Olympic venue. So up at the front of the course, as we just tried to establish some shots from the camera, is the British Olympic champion, Giles Scott, 4 times world champion, 2 times European champion. So, yeah, certainly doesn't need a huge introduction to that, but a little step away and really starting to now ramp back up on his Olympic campaign. An interview that just went out recently with Giles Scott was explaining how it was very much running into Rio We can identify, again, the lead boats all still very much in the mix. Nothing changing around too much there. We have Alican Kaynar, the Turkish sailor, 13th in Rio, but really started to bring a bit of performance towards the back end of 2018, where he had a third and a fourth. And as we were just talking about, the man right there, left of shot, as we've picked up on the drone. So he is a man to keep an eye on, and again is looking to push hard. He is already got himself qualified after his performance in Aarhus. He was ninth. That the qualification, it was the top 8 countries, but there were 2 Dutch boats, both Heiner and Jan Postman. So fiercely battled as the camera pans around. There we see Alican Kaynar going out of shot. Those slightly blurry, but in shot in the centre of picture is Giles Scott. Josip Olwich is there as well. And of course, we've picked up a few times sailing a very nice race is Kistanov from Russia. So, name we don't see a huge amount bouncing up into those positions. Really looking again to put himself on the board. This is the first race. No racing done yesterday. And so this is a real test of nerves in a way, because of having to play a day of twiddling their thumbs. Are they going? There was numerous postponements. And it wasn't until 4 o'clock local time that really a decision was made that there wasn't going to get any racing underway, and AP over A was signalled. But a long day for the sailors as they were all prepped, ready to go. So they've had to clear their heads, step away and come back afresh. Certainly looking at some of the sailors' profiles on social media, they've certainly been out and enjoying Athens. Again, many of the sailors have been here, some for up to a month, some for just a few weeks. But with how important this event is, it's certainly put the pressure on and got people there early. But they've been out enjoying themselves, looking around the spectacular scenes within Athens. And of course, the Parthenon, a key feature of that. And we saw many of them enjoying a sunset, going up and having a look at that. So lovely to show that very much where they are. None of them taking this waters and the nostalgicness of this Olympic venue for granted. Several of the sailors all out early before this event. There was a really nice pre-event Easter regatta organised by the Hellenic Sailing Federation. Quite a large number of the sailors were all out here, and certainly a nice benchmark, which was won by our current world champion Zomba Bökes from Hungary. But at the moment, certainly looking to try and pull his way through this race course. He's a little bit bundled back in the pack. Alican Kaynar looking quite nice on this right-hand side as he starts to come back towards Giles Scott and Josip Olwich. So Looks like there could be some nice gains made here. So as we can see, the drone tracking in towards that top mark. All the support boats out on the water, coaches, all keeping an eye on it. So this is going to be a very important upwind leg. The green mark in place for the movement of the breeze. So there had been a shift and change round at that top mark. Looks slip back into the pack. Josh Jr. just getting around. You can see one of a fleet of 6 Ukrainian boats getting round. Hosenko going round. So very, very tight. And so a clearly shifty upwind leg, with many of these boats struggling to identify those shifts. Alichan Kanar made some nice gains on that right-hand side, all trying to squeeze round inside this gap now. The Australian #1, Jake Lilly, back in the packing as well. Local sailor. Sail number Greek 77 is Metakas. Ineos Metakas, someone that we've been, well, I guess the country's resting their hopes on to get themselves secure. He was 11th in Rio, had a bit of a disaster in Aarhus back in 22nd, somewhere he certainly didn't want to be. Came back into a bit more form in the Hempel World Cup Series in Hyères last year in the 5th, but with the nation all resting firmly on him. Wunhun round, Finnish sailor, again tucked a long way back. So tough. Max Kohlhoff from Germany as well. So we see a lot of names all tightly bundled, quite far back in the pack. Just trying to identify where Giles Scott is. He did look like he might have snuck around and was that lead boat around, but we're a little bit late up with the drone, so we couldn't identify that exact boat there. But that, according to our tracker, looks like he's still just got a little bit of breathing space in front of the Croatian Ulrich. Look how tightly packed, how hard they're working to get these boats around this mark. Reason why the green mark, when there's a green mark identified, it means it's a replacement mark. So there's obviously a wind shift from what we had at the bottom part of that race course. We weren't able to identify that there had been a change of mark, so apologies for that, but that's why the change to this green mark. If you're just joining us and wondering why they're not on their usual Tahitian orange marks. But we are looking, so just round there, the Bermudan sailor Rockall Evans, the only Bermudan sailor, really trying to keep himself in the mix, but shows how tough this fleet is. A host of countries all mixed up here. And there we see the Australian Lachlan Gilhan. He was the one that came off by the committee boat. We saw take that tack early off. So not gone the way he hoped. Definitely that port hand side off that race course on that start was definitely the favoured side. So as you're joining us, are some of the back markers a little bit. The fleet about halfway down the second downwind leg. This is leg number 4. So we will try and fly forward and catch up with them. Maybe we'll see if we can get the tracker up just to identify exactly where those lead boats are and keep in mix with the battle. Apologies for the picture at the moment. We'll see if certainly doesn't look right at the moment on that. So they are on their way downwind. So again, just bear with us as we try and find this. As I've got it, Giles Scott is still out in front. A fierce battle condensed just behind them with second and third places. We have Aldwych back there highlighted. We have Alexander Kanar just on the left. Turkey 21 there. First of 5 French sailors. Fabian Pic. He is just alongside the Croatian as well. Again, one of the New Zealand sailors that really been pushing hard is Andy Maloney, and we see that New Zealand 61. But a great performance so far from Arkady Kistanov, the Russian sailor. We saw him out towards the front early in this race, and he's held on and performing superbly alongside that, just to the right of where Andy Maloney is. Then look at some of the names breathing down his neck there. We have Jan Postma. This is his return to the class, his first championship since Rio. So what a period of time out. final gate. And just this little stretch to the finish line. All looks cool, calm, collected. Looking around, looks back over his shoulder. That breathing space, exactly where he wanted to be. But race 1 of the European Championships 2019 here in Athens is going to go to that man right there. GBR 41, Olympic champion Giles Scott. So just using those little bits of waves just to drive himself, give himself that little bit of extra breathing space over the rest of the boat. Looking back to see how it's all panning out, and he will be very glad. Boats all coming into play. There is the orange flag from one end of the finish line. Pick from France comes across the line. Just back from them, Andy Maloney, the Kiwi. All just happy to have that solid position. And there we see Ulwich slip back into the pack a little bit. The Russian that's been battling out. Ed Wright, your European champion. And there is your world champion as well. Burkes crossing the line. The first of the Dutch sailors. Postma right behind him. Josh Jr. again, the other Kiwi sailor. There is your other Dutch sailor. Nicholas Heine just split with the Czech sailor, Tepley. The first of the American sailors through the line is Caleb Payne. Olazar through. Now the host of names as they battle through. So what a race, how it all panned out. And that person crossing the line there, the Norwegian Anders Pedersen. Not the race he wanted. He led at that first mark. He was out in front. We saw the umpires give him a whistle on that first downwind leg that drew him back into the pack. And what proved to be difficult for all of the sailors was that second upwind leg that really shook it up. Luke Muller going across the line way back. Won't be happy with that, and certainly, even though he'd be pleased, Caleb Payne is up there looking to qualify that. He would certainly wish it was the American himself, Luke Muller, that would have been further up. He is a quick sailor, been really slotting in. Again, all battling through, trying to squeeze in right by this mark. One of the Chinese sailors coming across the line. We have two of them here, He Chen and Luen Xian, both sort of battling it out. There we go, the other Chinese sailor. So that is He Chen crossing the line. What a fierce battle, and what a race number one. We'll bring up a little bit of a leaderboard, hopefully, and be able to give you some identification of who and how that all started to round up. But what a superb race. Olympic champion taking that win. So again, if you'd like to keep track of plenty of the videos, the emotions, everything going through online, then we go through all those social media channels: Facebook, International Fin Class; Instagram, Fin Class; Twitter, Fin_class. 84 sailors all coming through that line from 33 nations. But what a return to form for Giles Scott, taking that race win. But that's only one race. Got plenty more racing to come. They'll look to have quite a turnaround and get this sorted quite quickly. So a bit of a discussion going on between a couple of the boats, whether they felt there was some disputes going down that final leg. So the boats are all resting up, trying to get themselves in best position for the next race. I certainly don't think the race committee will hang around too long for the second race. With the breeze they've got, they'll certainly want to make good and get as many races in as they possibly can. So we're waiting for confirmation, but you can already see the boat straight back across alongside coach boats. A little bit of food, a little bit of water, get themselves hydrated, energy back on board, ready for race number 2. So even though it's a bit overcast, temperatures still warm out in Athens. The spray tops on board, of course, just trying to keep that rain out. But when we look at the class as a whole, it's, you know, you can follow every single story down the line. People like Nicholas Heine, one of the Dutch competitors, looking to claim his spot and battle it out against Jan Postma. But Nicholas, the son of Roy Heine, who competed at the Olympic Games in the Fin class, I believe, back in '88. So, again, some amazing sort of stories that you can just track off and follow from each of the sailors. Of course, many names that are known throughout sailing. Some of the biggest names possible have come through the class. And it's great to see still many of them racing and battling it out on this course. World champion Max Salmonen from Sweden, Alichan Kana from Turkey we saw, Facundo Alizar from Argentina, and then of course with the Dutch battle going on, they have got their qualifications spot, but they are all still to try and do this. These are all a big battle going on with their places secured, but looking to take their championship. But of the nations still to qualify. All I can say is, you know, the USA, after Caleb Haynes, he took bronze in Rio, but has been quite turbulent since Rio, trying to find that. But he's also had a great sort of push from his fellow teammate Luke Muller. He took a couple of race wins in Aarhus last year, and so a bronze medal at one of the Hempel World Cup Sailing Series. So again, that was on in Miami. Actually, his on home waters, he's got to be pretty pleased with. But a lot of pressure still on the American duo to get themselves. Again, Jorg Zara from Brazil looking to get himself sorted. Australia's Jake Lilly. So all pushing for that. But again, some other big names. We've seen a dominant performance by the two Croatian sailors in that last race. We picked up on Josip Olwich, but it was Nenad Bogarin that made that squeeze in and from the start of this, put together from Bo Outridge. Will shortly be rejoining the racing.
I didn't have a good race in Aarhus, so I couldn't make one of the places there, one of the spots there. So I hope here I have a good race. Oh, for sure. I think we are almost 90 boats. All the top guys are here. It might be harder to win an event like this than Olympic Games or a huge championship like this.
So as we catch up on these highlight clips, we are just waiting for confirmation of that leaderboard from that first superb race for the European Championships here, being hosted by the Hellenic Sailing Federation in Athens. We are looking to get back out on the water and kickstart race number 2 shortly. Again, just waiting to identify that exact start time, but hopefully, again, as you'll see there, enjoy some great pictures from Blue Outridge as they go round. We'll leave you with those pictures shortly, and we'll come straight back into racing. So if you'd like, again, to keep up and see some of the details, head to the social media sites. But otherwise, again, we will rejoin the racing very shortly.
For this week we are expecting a very good weather, sunny, sea breeze wind, 10, 12 knots, 14 knots, so pretty good wind, perfect conditions for sailing, for fin sailing, for downwind sailing, free pumping, so it will be great. Athens, Greece for the FIN Europeans 2019 Olympic qualification for 4 spots. I didn't have a good race in Aarhus, so I couldn't make one of the places there, one of the spots there. So I hope here I have a good race. Oh, for sure. I think we are almost 90 boats. All the top guys are here. It might be harder to win an event like this than Olympic Games or a huge championship like this. For this week we are expecting a very good weather, sunny, sea breeze wind, 10, 12 knots, 14 knots, so pretty good wind, perfect conditions for sailing, for fin sailing, for downwind sailing, free pumping, so it will be great. Well, we are in Athens, Greece for the FIN Europeans 2019 Olympic qualification for 4 spots. I didn't have a good race in Aarhus, so I couldn't make one of the places there, one of the spots there. So I hope here I have a good race. Oh, for sure. I think we are almost 90 boats. All the top guys are here. It might be harder to win an event like this than Olympic Games or a huge championship like this. For this week we are expecting a very good weather, sunny, sea breeze wind, 10, 12 knots, 14 knots, so pretty good wind, perfect conditions for sailing, for fin sailing, for downwind sailing, free pumping, so it will be great. Well, we are in Athens, Greece for the FIN Europeans 2019 Olympic qualification for 4 spots. I didn't have a good race in Aarhus, so I couldn't make one of the places there, one of the spots there, so I hope here I have a good race. Oh, for sure. I think we are almost 90 boats. All the top guys are here. It might be harder to win an event like this than Olympic Games or a huge championship like this. For this week we are expecting a very good weather, sunny, sea breeze wind, 10, 12 knots, 14 knots, so pretty good wind, perfect conditions for sailing, for fin sailing, for downwind sailing, free pumping, so it will be great. Well, we are in Athens, Greece for the FIN Europeans 2019 Olympic qualification for 4 spots. I didn't have a good race in Aarhus, so I couldn't make one of the places there, one of the spots there, so I hope here I have a good race. Oh, for sure, I think we are almost 90 boats. All the top guys are here. It might be harder to win an event like this than Olympic Games or a huge championship like this. For this week we are expecting a very good weather, sunny, sea breeze wind, 10, 12 knots, 14 knots, so pretty good wind, perfect conditions for sailing, for fin sailing, for downwind sailing, free pumping, so it will be great. Well, we are in Athens, Greece for the FIN Europeans 2019 Olympic qualification for 4 spots. I didn't have a good race in Aarhus, so I couldn't make one of the places there, one of the spots there, so I hope here I have a good race. Oh, for sure, I think we are almost 90 boats. All the top guys are here. It might be harder to win an event like this than Olympic Games or a huge championship like this. For this week we are expecting a very good weather, sunny, sea breeze wind, 10, 12 knots, 14 knots, so pretty good wind, perfect conditions for sailing, for fin sailing, for downwind sailing, free pumping, so it will be great.
Hi, Simon. Right, okay. Okay, no problem. I was going to say, with regard to like us obviously chatting now and the feed, none of this is going out, is it? It's just running that feed on the back.